Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa. Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa and Internet world. How are you doing on this rainy Tuesday? Rainy Tuesday in the Tuscaloosa, West Alabama, Northport area. Hope you guys are staying dry. Welcome in to the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. Of course, I am Joe Gaither. You are the listener or the viewer, and I appreciate you guys so much. Go out and give us a follow at Joe Gaither6 on any of the social media machines that you'd like to follow: Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, all the places right there. You can find me at Joe Gaither6. And we love to participate with all of our listeners right then and there. You can send us your comments, questions, queries, and complaints. Of course, you can jump in and be involved in the show if you want to drop a comment or a question. We would love to have that. Of course, before we get rolling this morning or this afternoon, we want to encourage you to pay attention to our other BamaCentral.com broadcasting network podcast. We've got All Things Bama with Katie Wyndham and Austin Hannon. And we've got Blue Collar Unplugged with Matthew Gibson, Blake Byler, and Jacob Pickle, the president of Crimson Chaos. So you want to get that insider perspective from, look, Blue Collar Unplugged, they do an incredible job. You've got Blake Byler with his great analysis. I think Matthew brings a great perspective as well. And, of course, Jacob Pickle is the president of Crimson Chaos. So you get really inside the students, the student section with Jacob Pickle. So appreciate all three of those guys bringing us Blue Collar Unplugged. You can find them on the social media machine. They're looking for mailbag questions for their next episode. And then on the last episode of All Things Bama, we had Katie Wyndham and Austin Hannon kicking around the topic of will Alabama have 2,000-yard rushers this season? Woo! Be still my beating heart if we do, if Alabama does have 2,000-yard rushers. So make sure that you follow those two programs as well. The three of us together make up the Bama Central Broadcasting Network, and we love being part of Bama Central. You can follow us at Bama Central, at Bama Central SI on the Twitter, on the Instagram machine. Of course, check out the website. That's the main hub, BamaCentral.com. We are the Sports Illustrated home of your Alabama Crimson Tide, and we look forward to bringing you coverage all year long. Oh man, the athletic academic calendar year is supposed to get started today, really, in Alabama world, but you don't know what's going to happen, or I don't really know what's going to happen with the weather this evening. Alabama soccer is supposed to be kicking off the academic athletic calendar year today with an exhibition against the hated Tennessee Vols. Supposed to be over there at the Alabama Soccer Complex at 7 p.m. If you can make it tonight, if the weather clears and we do play the game tonight, we encourage you all to get over to see Wes Hart's team. Wes Hart's team making all the way to the Final Four last year. Really a historic year, the best year in program history, and we're looking to repeat or build off of or sustain success from last season, and it's supposed to start tonight. But I am no weatherman. I am not. I don't have Nick Saban's weather machine. It looks like it's raining hard, and hopefully we'll see it clear, and the fields will drain, and we can play some soccer this evening. But we're not really going to talk about a whole lot of soccer right here on the program because I'm not a look. I love soccer. I really do. I love international soccer and I love club soccer, from European soccer, all that, this, that, and the other. But I'm not as familiar with these ladies. I'm looking forward to, honestly, I hope the weather does clear so that we can start to get to know the 2023 Alabama soccer team. Last year's team had a lot of big time stars and really taken Alabama very, very far, and we hope to see that continue this year. But that's not going to be the focus of today's show. Soccer not going to be the focus of today's show, and that's all right. Let's talk. Let's talk about Alabama football. Let's talk about the Crimson Tide, as we are now, 25 days away from Alabama kicking off against MTSU. If you missed yesterday's program, we focused very, very heavily on the Alabama open practice from this past Saturday. We talked about the quarterbacks and what we saw out of the quarterbacks, and really we kind of combined it with what we heard from Tommy Rees and Kevin Steele yesterday at the Alabama Media Day. If you missed any of that, you can always watch us on YouTube. You can look at old episodes on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. You can listen to older episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff for the programs, and you can hear that conversation. You can find out what I would do if I were the Alabama offensive coordinator. Obviously, I am not Tommy Reese. I'm Joe Gaither. I'm the little peon over here just giving my opinions and ideas and analysis about the Alabama Crimson Tide team. So let's talk. What do we start with? We had two commits, two Alabama football commits over one on Saturday and then one like literally an hour ago. And then we had some really great comments from Tyler Booker. Tyler Booker met with the media yesterday and really made Alabama's fans' blood kind of get boiling, get pumping up with some of his comments. I've got that comment. I've got a little video clip that we will play for the visual audience. The audio audience will be able to hear him, but either way you want to consume it, we'll play a little Tyler Booker clip. And then Nick Saban Sunday gave his comments on realignment. And look, we have not talked about realignment a whole lot on this program because I find the conversation to be a bit boring, to be a bit just like walking through mud. Oh, this conference might take this school and this school might jump to that conference. And what are we going to do and what's going to happen? Look, I find the conference realignment better to be on the receiving end and analyze what has happened rather than predict what will happen. We'll do a little bit of both on the show today, but Nick Saban chiming in on Sunday about conference realignment. So what do we want to start with? What do I want to start with? Let's start with Saturday's commitment. Amari Jefferson. Amari Jefferson, wide receiver out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, Baylor High School. Boo for me personally because I'm a Macaulay man, but that is A-okay. We are going to support and cheer for Amari Jefferson choosing to commit to the Alabama Crimson Tide. If you didn't see it, you can read about it on BamaCentral.com. You can check them out pretty much anywhere. And if you missed our interview, look, early in June, we talked to Amari Jefferson. We talked to Amari right after one of his big visits to Tuscaloosa. And Amari was coy with us in the interview. Now, he was wearing Alabama garb, and that gave me a little bit of a good sign. But walking into the weekend, I heard lots of different things about Amari Jefferson. Oh, hello, Miss Julene. Thank you so much for your comment right there on the Facebook side of things. You can jump in with Julene and watch the show on Facebook and comment anything that you'd like. I hope you're having a great day, Julene. Stay dry. The weather is very wet outside. So Amari commits on Saturday, but I want to take the whole summer's kind of point of view with Amari because he was really he played his cards very close to the vest, and I'm impressed by him playing the cards close to his vest. Here's what I heard. All right, so we all know Amari was a Tennessee baseball commit for the longest time. And he's always espoused that he wants to try to play baseball and football in college. And then he was pursued by Georgia, pursued by Alabama. Really, it came down to those big three, the three local big schools for him. And I know Chattanooga, you might think that's not local, but look, it's 3 hours to Tuscaloosa. It's an hour, almost 2 hours to Athens, and it's right at an hour 40 or so to Knoxville. So, it's really close by for all three of those schools. His parents can come see him whenever they want to. Amari goes through the entire summer, and he's waiting. He never visits with the Alabama baseball coaches. And, he wants to consider that as one of his big factors. Going into the week, my birdies were telling me that Amari was telling his friends that he was going to go to Georgia. Now, you never know how valuable or how, what those rumors are really worth. So I was thinking, okay, Alabama's about to be out on this. It's going to be a Tennessee and Georgia race right here. It's going to be between the two of those guys kind of competing. He's already committed to Tennessee baseball. He's got previous relationships. And then I kind of thought that Kirby might have came in with a big old fat NIL deal to kind of entice him to come to Georgia. Well, you see Amari last weekend, before he makes his commit, he decides to go to Tennessee and to Alabama for the Champions Cookout. And I kind of read that as, okay, Amari is is telling the other two programs, telling Tennessee and Alabama in person that he's going to go to Georgia, and that's very respectful. Or he's taking a Georgia final offer to Tennessee and to Alabama. Hey, can you match this? Can you beat this? Can you do me one better? And I thought, well, we're going to see what happens. All right, what else happened on that Saturday when Amari was visiting was you lost Perry Thompson. You lost Perry Thompson, something that I think Alabama fans and I think the Alabama administration, more importantly, and the Alabama coaching staff, more importantly, expected to have happened. I think that they realized what was trending with Perry Thompson, and I think the guys went all in on putting the chips. Hey, we're losing Perry Thompson. We need you, Amari. We need you, Amari Jefferson. Now, look, if you had heard Amari on our program, in early June after his visit, Amari said as much that Coach Saban sat him down and says, I don't want you, I need you. And imagine hearing that from the greatest college football coach ever. Or if you want to argue with me, the top 3 greatest college football coach ever. All right, we'll settle for that. Imagine hearing that. We need you in this program. Oh boy, that would be hard to pass up. Now, Amari, credit to him, plays his cards close to the vest. After he commits, he puts on the Nick Saban, not straw hat, but more like the Nick Saban practice hat. It's not straw. I guess it might be straw. But the Nick Saban kind of the old school classic Nick Saban hat, and says, "I'm rolling with the Tide." And when he was asked after he made his decision on this past Saturday, he said, "Oh, I knew I wanted to commit to Alabama after my first visit." And so, taking that into consideration, congratulations, Amari. Well done. You strung this out beautifully from a coverage standpoint, because you had me thinking a long, long time, oh, he sounds like he's going to Tennessee. After the interview that we talked to him, I talked to my parents, I talked to other people. I said, I think it sounds like he's going to Tennessee. Then summer continues and moves on, and it sounds like he's going to Georgia. And then boom, he puts on the Nick Saban hat, and he unzips the jacket in this Alabama garb, and everybody celebrates there in Chattanooga at Baylor High School. And we celebrate here in Tuscaloosa. I think that's masterfully done, because a lot of the times you think, okay, you know what's going to happen, you know how it's going to play out. And if I had known he was going to commit to Alabama, I would have been up in Chattanooga for that commitment. But I wanted to go to open practice, and I thought, there's a chance that he's going to Georgia or Tennessee, and so I'm going to go see open practice instead. And now I'm a little bit regretting it, not overly, but a little bit regretting that. I wish I was in Chattanooga to watch his commitment and to get a little interview time with Amari Jefferson. Now, Amari and I have exchanged a congratulatory text message, and hopefully we'll catch up with him in the future as he continues, or as he goes throughout his last semesters here in high school. What are you getting? You now have 2 receivers in the class. After losing Perry, you replace him with Amari Jefferson. You still have Rico Scott. If you didn't see Rico Scott over the last week and a half, somebody, a Kentucky commit, was trying to get him to flip to Kentucky, trying to get him to consider the Wildcats, and Rico Scott putting up a photo with him and Nick Saban arm in arm, basically reaffirming his commitment to the Alabama Crimson Tide. So Alabama, you've got 2 receivers in the class. You've lost Perry Thompson, but I don't think that's going to be a big deal. I think Rico Scott and Amari Jefferson are. Look, I think we'll speak on Amari, because I've actually talked to him. I haven't talked to Rico. I've seen his film, but I haven't talked to him yet. He's been a little hard to nail down or get to for me, which is no big deal. That's just the way some of these guys are. Amari seems like he's got his head right there where Alabama wants him. Driven to be great, driven to put the work in each and every day. I did feel like Amari was a little bit reserved with me, but it seemed like he wasn't really interested in a whole lot of the hoopla that goes with the sports, that goes with the fame. It seemed like he was more interested in playing well and performing well, being a good teammate, winning a state championship this coming season, another state championship for Baylor. Now, personally, I hope McCauley jumps in there and cuts him off there. But if he wins the state championship, great on him. No hate on that. You really seem like Amari was exactly what Alabama wants from a mental standpoint. You look at his measurables and you see, oh, 6 foot 195, 6 foot 205. Is he going to be able to, how he's going to translate to the college game? How's he going to translate to the SEC? It really seems like he has the mindset to utilize his skill sets, and I think that with the frame might be a little small, might be or just a touch small, but I think the speed is exactly what you want. The speed combined with physicality. Put on Amari Jefferson's tape. Just Google Amari Jefferson huddle, Amari Jefferson highlights, this, that, or the other. He is outrunning defenders at the high school level, left and right. He is an electric playmaker and someone that you just want to put the ball in his hands, left and all over the place. And Amari, let's kind of have a broader discussion here. Amari Jefferson might have been 10 years ago, a better fit as a running back. Maybe. But you see what's going on in the running back game. You see what's going on with the running backs all over America and all over the NFL. And Amari says, oh, I'm going to develop my skills as a wide receiver. Now, his body type might be a little bit more running back-esque, but he's developed skills as a wide receiver. He's making himself valuable. You just want to get the ball into his hands. I told him during our interview that he looked like Steve Smith, in my opinion. He looks like Deebo Samuel, Steve Smith's kind of a combination of the two guys. And so if Alabama gets a guy who can yak yards, run after the catch, just get the ball into his hands and make some plays, runs with power through the secondary, utilizes speed in the open field, I'm very, very excited about what Amari Jefferson's going to bring to this 2024 class. And you continue and you say, okay, what if you miss on Rico Scott? What if you miss on Amari Jefferson? What if they're not elite prospects? What if they're not wide receivers that can really turn over and take over the SEC? Well, look in the 25 class with Jamie French and Ryan Williams, and you're going to be just fine at the wide receiver position. All the Auburn fans that you hear from about, hey, we got Rico Scott away from you. Oh my gosh, we stole Rico Scott. You say congratulations. You say every dog has its day. You say, everybody gets a bone at some point. Blind squirrels find a nut, Hugh Freeze. And I think Hugh Freeze will continue to have strong recruiting classes, but we're not going to fret over losing one 5-star receiver. We're not going to fret over losing a receiver in general because the receiver class, over the next two classes, one, you brought in a nice receiving class, and 2 years ago, two years ago, the Shaz Preston, the Kobe Prentice, the Isaiah Bond recruiting class, the Kendrick Law recruiting class was daggum loaded. And so you see year after year after year, Alabama bringing in top-level receivers, and if Perry Thompson goes to Auburn and has a great career, we're going to say good luck, and we're going to cheer for Ryan Williams. We're going to cheer for Amari Jefferson. We're going to cheer for Rico Scott and Jamie French. I think that Alabama is going to be just fine at the receiver position going forward. So let's continue on the recruiting train because Alabama had some big news about an hour and change ago. Yeah, an hour and change ago with Mr. Peyton Woodyard. And let me put on some film of him in the background for myself so that Peyton Woodyard, so that we can talk about him accurately, because really all I did just now was kind of put up the article on BamaCentral.com. Put up the article on BamaCentral.com. Turn that sound off. Perfect, right there. As we're trying to get to know Peyton Woodyard. Peyton Woodyard, if you didn't see it, about an hour ago, announced he was foregoing his commitment to the Georgia Bulldogs. Peyton Woodyard out of St. John Bosco High School. Yes, that is the high school of one DJ Uiagalelei, and really a very, very famous high school in California. Peyton Woodyard, 6'2", 280, 6'2", 185, 6'2", 190, somewhere in that range. Plays safety, was ranked the number 6 safety in the 2024 class. Decides to flip his commitment from Georgia to Alabama. Does that today, just goes out and announces it on social media. It's been kind of whispered about, I'll be honest, it's been kind of whispered about for the last couple of months that Woodyard would be a flip commitment, or a flip target for Alabama, and the flip inevitably happened today. Now, what do you see? When you read the tea leaves and you put 2 and 2 together, what do you see what happened behind the scenes? Let me tell you. Alabama was in on KJ Bolden this past weekend. Alabama, as well as Auburn and Georgia and Florida State and Ohio State, was in on five-star safety KJ Bolden out of Georgia. And what did KJ do? KJ committed to Mike Norvell and Florida State. Good on you. Go where you want to go. Go where the best fit, where you feel comfortable. So to lose KJ Bolden, a 5-star safety, not inherently the end of the world. You already brought in a 5-star safety last year from Georgia with Caleb Downs. Not inherently the end of the world, but what do? You go out and say, all right, let's go out and really squeeze or pressure, not pressure, but put the heat on Peyton Woodyard. We've already had a good relationship with Peyton Woodyard. We like his game. We want him in this class. We lost out on KJ Bolden, so we need to get a safety, a prime safety in this class. And so what does Alabama do really in the span of Saturday, Sunday, Monday? Today is Tuesday. In the span of 4 days, they put the heat on Peyton Woodyard, and boom, sorry, Kirby Smart, Peyton Woodyard is now an Alabama Crimson Tide commit. And so boom, it's twofold. It's twofold. You pivot off the KJ Bolden loss, which maybe not a huge loss if he's going to Florida State. Florida State, they got to build something. They got to get some recruits sometime. Maybe not the worst loss of him going to Florida State. You pivot and you say, all right, I'm going to go out and get another top end safety in this class. And so Peyton Woodyard is now the 16th overall commit in the Alabama Crimson Tide class, and we really look forward to seeing what he's going to do. I'm sitting here watching film on his huddle right now. Big play. He looks big on film. 6'2", 195 is what he's listed at. It looks big for the high school level. It looks like he plays instinctual. I'll continue to watch some of this film. He's very physical. I'll continue to watch this film, and we'll kind of have a better analysis of Peyton Woodyard going forward. But what it means really for the Alabama class is you now have a safety. You have a safety in 3 corners, so you've got 4 defensive backs in the class, and you are up to the number 5 overall class. Look, you were at 5. You lost Perry Thompson. You dropped down to like 11, 12, somewhere in there. You bring Amari Jefferson into the class. You get up to 10. You get Peyton Woodyard's flip, and now you're back up to the number 5 overall recruiting class with 16 overall commits in the 2024 class. So the season may be starting, and the summer recruiting period may be basically over, but Alabama still reaping the spoils, the spoils of war, the spoils of everything that they have planted over the summer months. Now, Peyton Woodyard's an interesting candidate because Alabama offered him a scholarship 2 summers ago. 2 summers, a rising senior now, so 2 summers ago would have been a rising sophomore. Offered him a scholarship at a very young age after an impressive Tuscaloosa camp. Obviously, Nick Saban loves to see his guys, loves to see his recruits get into camp. And so Peyton has been on the Alabama radar for quite some time. He committed to Georgia in January. But now, as of this morning, Tuesday, August 8th, I think it was about noon Central Time, he puts out the tweet, and you guys can go follow him at @Pepe_Woodyard. Is that what it was? At @Pepe_Yard. Is that what I saw earlier? Let's see. Oh, I just was there. At Pepe_Wood on the Twitter machine. Make sure you go out and give him a follow. Congratulate him for committing or flipping to the Alabama Crimson Tide. And we'll see how the commitments and how the class continues to develop. With 16 recruits, 16 commitments, you're probably looking at roughly 8, 9 more spots, 10 if you're 10, 11 if you find somebody who's really elite. Edric Houston. That's the one. That's the next major target for Alabama. Edric Houston. You got to go get you got to go get him. You've had a lot of success out of Buford in the last couple of years, bringing Isaiah Bond, bringing Jake Pope, bringing in Justice Haynes. You got to keep the pipeline rolling with Edric Houston. I'm really hopeful that Alabama can close on Edric Houston. KJ Bolden, you missed on him. Dylan Raiola going to Georgia already from Buford. So I think it's going to be huge to get Edric Houston into this class. So hopefully that can be the next big recruit that jumps into the Alabama 2024 class. You probably got about, like I said, anywhere between 7 and 12 spots left, depending on how Coach Saban wants to mitigate and operate in the transfer portal going forward. All right, let's keep this bad boy rolling. That's a nice little bit on recruiting, a little recruiting update for you guys on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. And thank you so much for watching us on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook. I appreciate everybody hitting us with a retweet, hitting us with a share, hitting us with a like, a follow, any of that stuff. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon as well. Just search up the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. You can follow me on Twitter, on all the social medias at Joe Gaither6. I love interacting with anybody, even if you disagree with me. I appreciate any disagreements. That's no problem at all. I love having thought processes challenged and thinking a little bit deeper than what I've always been, thought about. So let's talk about some actual football. Let's talk about what was talked about yesterday in front of the media. Mr. Tyler Booker. Tyler Booker made Alabama fans, very, very excited. Look, you guys know Tyler Booker is going to probably be your starting right guard. You're probably going to see him at starting right guard this coming season, right next to J.C. Latham, his former IMG teammate. And you're going to hear him talk a little bit about I don't think that's in this clip. I think that's in a previous clip. But he talked about J.C. Latham trusting J.C. and seeing J.C.'s growth from their time at IMG, really complimenting J.C.'s understanding of the game and understanding of what defenses are trying to do to Alabama's offense. Tyler Booker, let's just play the clip and we'll react to it. This was Tyler Booker yesterday, making all Alabama fans super excited about this coming up season.
If there's one or two words that you would use to describe your mindset as a blocker, what would they be?
Physically dominating, and that's the mindset of the whole room. Like, we want to physically dominate you. We want to intimidate you. We want the third quarter to roll around and the defense to be like, oh my gosh, like, we still can't stop the run. Like, how are we going to stop this run? We want guys to tap out. We want guys to fear us. But that's a mindset that we have to develop now in camp, and being here at the University of Alabama, that's the mindset of running the ball, and you're not going to play offensive line here if you don't have that mindset. So whoever you see on the field has that physically dominating mindset, and we're going out there like we're trying to make you quit every play.
All right, Tyler. Look, we've heard that from J.C. Latham at SEC Media Days. We want to go out there and make people quit. We want to impose our will on teams. Tyler Booker. Look, if you have all five guys, I think Seth McLaughlin is kind of adheres to that as well. If you have all five guys up front wanting to physically beat up the other defensive line, look, we all know that the last couple of years, the offensive line has been a little bit of an underwhelming unit. Look, you've had Bryce Young running for his life for the last two seasons and being a little magician behind the offensive line and making extra time, creating extra time, and finding receivers down the field. You heard me talk about the quarterbacks yesterday. You heard me talk about, really what Tommy Rees wants to do and how he wants to implement it. And really, Tommy Rees talked about being personnel-driven, not scheme-driven. You look at this offensive line, if you're hearing them talk each and every day, and you're seeing them in person, golly, they're physically imposing. They are big men. They are large fellas. You see them and you hear them talk, you think, oh, dang, we need to run the ball. We need to run the ball 50 times a game. You think about what you have in this backfield with Roydell Williams and Jace McClellan and Justice Haynes and Jam Miller once he jumps back into the rotation. You think about what you got in this backfield and what you have on the offensive line. Look, I know the quarterback is the main question mark, but good gosh, Tommy Rees, just look at the personnel that you have right now. Look at the personnel that you have right now and tell me that Alabama's not going to be pounding people up front over and over and over again, imposing the will. Tyler Booker talked about, we want to get into the third quarter, and these guys think they still can't stop the run. I don't know how much professional football you guys have followed over the last couple of years, but the Philadelphia Eagles have become one of the most physical offensive lines in football. And you heard Dallas Goedert and you've heard Jason Kelsey in the last couple of months talking about running that quarterback sneak with Jalen Hurts underneath center and basically being an unstoppable play. And essentially going to the line of scrimmage, the Philadelphia Eagles going to the line of scrimmage and hearing the other defensive linemen saying, this is BS, you shouldn't be running this BS play, it's cheap, it's BS, blah, 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 y'all are, basically, you've broken our will, is what they're actually saying without saying it, complaining about the quarterback's name. That's what I want to hear the other SEC teams, the Texas, Texas in week 2, all the other matchups. That's what I want them to say. I want them to say, would you guys just call a pass play? Would you call a pass play so I can rush the passer? So you guys stop ear-holing me up front? So you guys stop driving me off the football up front? That's what you want to hear the other defenses, the opposing defenses say. And Tyler Booker, J.C. Latham, talks a big game already this summer. Like, these comments are strong. Do I have a problem with them? No, I don't have a problem with them. I love them. I love it. That's what I want to get back to. You want to have a balanced team. You want to protect a brand new quarterback. You want to really give your defense a chance to rest on the sidelines and impose their will every single time they get out there. You run and dominate the line of scrimmage. I want to see that. I'm excited about that. But oh boy, Trench King, J.C. Latham, and Tyler Booker, y'all talking a big game. And I just want to go out. I want to see you guys go out there and prove it. Now, I think you absolutely can. What did I see on open practice? I saw a behemoth offensive line, an offensive line that looks like, oh boy, they would make me, roadkill Joe Gaither, average Andy athlete. And of course, all the competition that they're playing is much bigger athletes than I am, much better athletes than I am. But they look like they're going to make some real roadkill this year. And because of that, what is really Tommy Rees going to do at the quarterback position? I don't think it matters. I think you really little power surge. We are a little bit of a storm outside. I don't think it matters because Tommy Rees can play Ty Simpson or play Jalen Milrow. And look, I think they're both neck and neck. Yes, Jalen Milrow. Jalen Milrow gives you more dynamic athleticism. Yes, Ty Simpson gives you a more polished passer. Yes, they each have skill sets that are conducive to what they can do. You can win with both of them. But what you really want to do, look, Tommy Rees talking about, I want to call offenses around my personnel. I want to make sure that my personnel is maximized. All right, if I'm looking at the personnel, I'm looking at the 25 guys who are operating on offense, really, over the course of what's going to be over the course of the year. The personnel says we run the freaking football. The personnel says we zone, we get out into outside zone, we get downhill, we pull, we end up doing pulling guards, we're kicking out defensive ends, we're getting downhill. Like, look, I love the RPO game, I do. But let's call an off tackle. Let's call some ISO. Let's call some plays that really get after these opposing defenses. And Tyler Booker, oh my gosh, really exciting, everybody. Let's hear it one more time before we move on to our last topic of the day.
If there's one or two words that you would use to describe your mindset as a blocker, what would they be?
Physically dominating. And that's the mindset of the whole room. Like, we want to physically dominate you. We want to intimidate you. We want the third quarter to roll around and be in the defense to be like, oh my gosh, like, we still can't stop the run. Like, how are we going to stop this run? We want guys to tap out. We want guys to fear us. But that's a mindset that we have to develop now in camp, and being here at the University of Alabama, that's the mindset of running the ball, and you're not going to play offensive line here if you don't have that mindset. So whoever you see on the field has that physically dominating mindset. And we're going out there like we're trying to make you quit every play.
That sounds like Coach Saban from 2007. That sounds like Coach Saban from 06, from his introductory press conference. We're trying to make their bleep quit. We want to make them hate playing against us. And I think that really Alabama, unfortunately, has gone away from that a little bit, at least over the last 2 years. I know the 2020 team was amazing. But I wonder when the last time teams have hated to play Alabama. I mean, obviously you have issues, you have talent disparities when you're playing Mississippi States and the schools that are not on your level. So of course that plays into hating Alabama. But when you're playing the Georgias, the Texases, the Ohio States, the top end teams in the country, I think you really have to embrace that mindset. You really have to embrace that bare-knuckle boxer. I don't care if I get hit, but I'm going to hit you a lot, and I'm going to love the pain. If you hit me, that's fine. I'm going to love the pain, and I'm still going forward. And sounds like Tyler Booker and J.C. Latham are really, really embodying that mindset. It sounds like, look, Eric Wolford has started to I don't want to say brainwash because that has a negative connotation, but really change the mindset, really work on the thought process of this Alabama offensive line. And I love it. I love it because if the Alabama offensive line is physically imposing, if you're running the football at 3, 4, 5, 7 yards a pop, if you're running the football effectively, then whoever's playing quarterback is going to have a heck of an easier life. A lot easier life because, one, everybody's going to be worried about the run downhill. The pass rush isn't going to be near as effective. You're going to have to be, and then once the downhill run is established, the play action passing becomes much easier. Do I think that Jalen Milroe can hit an open man down the field? Yes, I do. I absolutely do think that he can, even with the mechanics not being as good. I think if it's a play action pass and he knows that Malik Benson's running a deep post and he's going to be open because everybody's getting sucked up into the running game, boom, I think he can hit. I think he can hit Malik Benson and anybody over the top, Isaiah Bond, anybody over the top, because I think the play action passing game is going to be highly effective for this Alabama Crimson Tide team. But it starts with the offensive line. Tyler Booker, you sounded great yesterday. J.C. Latham, you sounded great at SEC Media Days. Music to our Alabama eaters, wanting to get back to physicality, wanting to get back to dominating our opponent, down in, down out. And that's really what it comes down to. Look, you're all talking about the quarterback. You're all worried about who's going to play quarterback. If the offensive line takes the responsibility, takes the onus on themselves to drive this offense, then the quarterback will not matter near as much. And obviously, it's the most important position in football. It is. I do recognize and acknowledge that. But let's be honest. Was Jake Coker a dynamic quarterback? No disrespect to Jake. Happy recent birthday. Was Blake Sims a dynamic quarterback? He had a skill set, though it was effective. Yes. Was Greg McElroy a dynamic quarterback? No, not really. No, and AJ was a good passer. AJ McCarron was a good passer, real good passer. But AJ's strengths was also in managing the game and allowing the physicality and really reading defenses and getting Alabama into positive plays. I think that the onus is on the offensive line to take the pressure off of whoever will be the quarterback, Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson. Sorry, Ty Buckner, I think you're a bit out of it at this point. Now, could I be surprised? Yes, I could be in the next 25 days. But the onus is on the offensive line. Drive the defense off the field, drive the defense down the field, protect the quarterback. Tyler Booker also talked about wanting to keep all the quarterbacks very clean throughout every game. Protect the quarterbacks, really implement your will against the front seven, and I think the Alabama offense will be, it will be different, but it'll be just as effective as it's been in the last couple of years. Let's get out of here on one more topic. With realignment. We've avoided realignment on the show for, we didn't talk about it at all last week. And last week was a huge week for realignment. The Pac-12 basically dissolving into the Big Ten and into the Big 12. Look, I am... we'll talk about what Coach Saban and Coach Eli Drinkwitz said. They both said similar comments, had very similar ideas, wanting to prioritize the student athlete. Now, look, it is not student athlete. These guys are entities. These guys are valuable. These guys and girls are valuable entities to the universities. You think about really everything that they're getting asked to do and the ways that they're getting asked to represent the universities. Of course, they're here to get an education, and that's kind of that's supposed to be the primary motivation. But you had the Ohio State quarterback, the kid who beat Alabama, the backup. I can't even think of his name, but he said we didn't come to Ohio State to play school. We came to play quarterback. Cardell Jones. Yes, Cardell Jones. Cardell Jones. We didn't come to Ohio State to play school. Look, these guys are no fools who are coming to Alabama. These football players are no fools. They're coming here to the main reason they're coming here is to get to the NFL as quickly as possible and to maximize their value. Coach Saban talks about maximizing value. Now, the degree is part of maximizing value, absolutely. But if you can get to professional sports, Brandon Miller maximized his value last year here at the University of Alabama. If you can get to professional sports as quickly as possible, then I think that that's part of the college experience. That's part of what these players, these athletes are doing. So Coach Saban, yes, on Sunday, Coach Saban on Sunday saying that we need to prioritize these student athletes when we're making these decisions instead of really letting the power players, the money, drive the decision. Now, here's the deal. You have heard over the last 2 years complaints from large swaths of fan bases about the transfer portal and about NIL and about players going just for the money. Oh, this recruit only went to Texas A&M because they paid him a whole lot of money. Walter Nolan, and many others over at Texas A&M. Look, you see the complaints over the last couple of years, but what are the coaches doing throughout my entire lifetime? Even Coach Saban, love you, Coach Saban. Appreciate what you've done for the University of Alabama. But once he landed, when he landed at Alabama, the conversation was, "Oh, Alabama fans, don't get satisfied. He's going to be gone in 4 years. He's going to go to a new job in 5 years, 3 years. He's going to rebuild Alabama, win a title, then bounce out." Coach Saban just likes a rebuild job. We heard that. We heard that loud and clear. Now, that did not end up being the case with Coach Saban. But Coach Saban, you look through his history, it was a couple of years at Mississippi State, at Michigan State. It was a couple of years at LSU. It was a couple of years at Miami. There was a reason for people to say Coach Saban might bounce out of Alabama very, very, very soon after a couple of years. Now, very thankful that he did not do that. But you see coaches, the point is, you see coaches bouncing from job to job to job, year in and year out, upgrading jobs left and right for, betterment for my family, betterment for my career, betterment for my family. I want to take care of my family down the line. Generational wealth, create generational wealth. Otherwise, these coaches would just stay at their small schools and never accept, higher pay and higher raise. I mean, look, we love you, Nate Oates. I absolutely love you, Nate Oates. Golly, I would die for you, Nate Oates, honestly. But Nate Oates, you go from Romulus High School to Buffalo. To Buffalo, and no hate on you there, but you do that for the betterment of your family, the betterment of your career, and then you're coaching at Buffalo for a handful of years, and Alabama comes calling with a much bigger salary, much bigger platform, and you come to Alabama. Look, I don't have any problem with that. One, because it benefits Alabama, yeah, but two, it's just the nature of the beast. It's the nature of capitalism. It's the nature of college sports. People think, oh, it's amateurism. We've lost Look, it has not been amateur sports for my entire life. I'm 33 years old, so you go back to the late 80s. It hasn't been amateur sports my entire life. Once it became a business model, once the TV got involved, once advertising dollars got involved, once universities realized the money that was at stake here in college sports, you saw a much deeper emphasis on winning and on paying for higher quality coaches, for paying for high quality facilities. And now it's only trickled down to the athletes in the last couple of years. And you've had, we can't let the athletes get paid. Well, everybody else is getting paid. Everyone else has their hand out, including the universities at the conference level, jumping ship from one conference to another. Why does A&M in Missouri leave the Big 12 in 2012 to come to the SEC? More money. The SEC is more prestigious. You get a larger cut of the playoff pie because the SEC has been traditionally more successful. You get a larger cut of the revenue because of the TV dollars and the marketing that goes everywhere. The contract with CBS at the time, now with ESPN. It's all money. And so to criticize the student athletes for jumping in the transfer portal for, this guy was at smaller school and then goes to bigger school because he's now more valuable. Think about Grant Nelson. You see, he leaves in North Dakota State and it comes to Alabama. Great. Think about North Dakota State recently had an offensive lineman or defensive lineman go to LSU 2 years ago. And people, it's terrible. North Dakota State developed him and now he's playing at LSU. If I were developed here I was developed in a smaller radio station. Now I'm into a little bit more prestigious organization. I feel like it's a little bit more prestigious organization, and people can agree or disagree, but my perspective is what matters there. And great, if I continue to develop at this organization and someone like an ESPN, a Fox Sports, a WFAN wants to come in and scoop me up, that's a conversation to be had because I have worked hard. Now, that might be years down the line. It may never happen. But if it ever does happen, it's my fiduciary responsibility to myself, to my family, to my career, to entertain those options. I find it very disingenuous for everyone to be on one side criticizing student athletes jumping in the transfer portal, criticizing student athletes for pursuing NIL opportunities and pursuing maximizing their own value when you're seeing it at the conference level from the very, very top down. From the very top down, oh, can we jump into the Big Ten? USC and UCLA. Come on, you guys are not Big Ten programs. You guys are the flagship programs of the Pac-12. You're the flagship programs. Why can't you not build something out west? You're leaving to go to the Big Ten. Look, is it going to ruin the game? No, it's not going to ruin college football. College football is going to be as healthy as it's ever been. You're going to see the next steps down the line. The next steps down the line are going to be a complete and total breakaway from football, from the NCAA. And once the breakaway happens, I do predict a reverting back to regional leagues, regional conferences. Because, look, you cannot sustain. I love U.S. softball. I do. Alabama softball is amazing. Alabama softball is a lot of fun to go visit and go watch. And if you've never been to the Rhodes House, you are missing out. And I'm saying that as mildly as possible. You are absolutely missing out. Those ladies work their tail off. They perform at a high level. They represent Alabama in the highest class fashion. And Patrick Murphy is a heck of a representative for the University of Alabama and a great coach. But let's be honest. We're in the SEC. We're comfortable. If we had to go and play on the West Coast for conference games each and every time, like these West Coast teams are going to do, UCLA, you're a pet. UCLA, you have essentially more or less you dominated the early portion of the sport before the SEC got involved or really took softball seriously. You were the flagship program. UCLA, Arizona, y'all were the flagship programs in college softball. And now you're going to be going to Michigan, to Rutgers, to Ohio State. You're going to be going to Wisconsin to play. And look, I don't have a problem with high-profile matchups, but the travel makes no sense financially. Makes no sense at all. And I know that it's all driven by TV dollars, but will the TV dollars, will the football money be enough to cover these non-revenue sports and keep these non-revenue sports afloat, a part of college athletics? Look, I know that not everybody loves, let's just say, track and field, college track and field. I love it. I just have a family background in track and field. But look, it's not the most popular television sport. I get that. I understand that not always, you don't always have the highest viewing eyes on the NCAA track and field events. You don't. But it makes no sense. Like, I just don't understand how these non-revenue sports, these Olympic sports, even men's and women's golf. We love the golf programs here at the University of Alabama. We love baseball here at the University of Alabama. Baseball pulling in another transferee from the University of Texas, 6'7" pitcher. You can read about that on BamaCentral.com. We love these sports that are not basketball and football. I do, at least. I love every sport that has a scoreboard or a judge's table. Really, I'm into all sports. But is it sustainable? Will the football money, will the marketing dollars, will the television revenue be able to sustain? Now, the SEC is healthy. So for Alabama, this conversation is not as relevant. But college sports as a whole is on thin ice. And that makes me uncomfortable. And I am a proponent of chase the money because you got to maximize your value, maximize your dollars. Coach Saban has told us that for the last 8 to 10 years. But I think there's smarter ways to go about this. And really, I think you're dealing with a little bit of traditionalism with, we all got to go together. We have to go together. Look, we need to adopt the Notre Dame model. Let's look at Notre Dame. Football independent, ACC member in basically every other sport. Okay, obviously, I think the ACC doesn't really regionally fit South Bend, Indiana, but it's not that far away. Look, they got Louisville. They've got Louisville. Obviously, they can get to Syracuse. They can get to Rutgers. They can get to Boston College. Boston College, one of their traditional rivals. There's some semblance of ties to the ACC for Notre Dame. But football as a total independent. Now, look, we're not going to get independency for football for Alabama, Florida, any of these big schools, and I'm not advocating for that. What I'm advocating for is a total breakaway of football from the NCAA. The NCAA is an absolute joke. We've talked about that on this program a dozen times, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a dozen more times as we continue. But you break away football from the NCAA, from the rest of the conferences. You leave basketball with the NCAA, because that is their biggest baby. That is their biggest revenue generator, the NCAA tournament. And then you revert, softball, baseball, all these sports back to their, you don't kill the Pac-12. You don't kill these conferences by decimating everybody and moving everybody for football reasons. Now, football is great. I love football. You love football. That's why you're watching this program or listening to this program. Football is the king. I will never try to dethrone the king. But it's time for us to realize that football is operating at a completely different scale, a completely different stratosphere than the other non-revenue sports. Basketball almost gets into the revenue, but no, they're not. Gets into that stratosphere, but they're not quite. So I think football, it's time for the next steps. Look, no, you cannot have congressional regulation. And that's a conversation in and of itself. All these coaches, all these conferences have asked for congressional regulation for NIL and for transfer portal and this, that, and the other. But the conferences and the schools are bouncing around anywhere that makes sense for them, anywhere that maximizes their own value. Look, if I'm Congress, and I'm obviously not, you say UCLA, USC, what the heck? You're not Big Ten material. You're not a Big Ten school. Why? What are you doing? Look, there's got to be a little antitrust here, breaking up these conferences and jumping into monopolies that are the SEC and the Big Ten, and you're seeing the fallout with the ACC trying to keep up. ACC trying to scoop in Stanford. Look. Stanford Cardinal, great history of academic success, really one of the top end athletic programs in the country, mainly because they field so many different sports, but still great athletics, great academics. You can't bring Stanford into the ACC. What, Stanford basketball, the Cardinal, they're going to jump over and play Duke and North Carolina. They're going to play Clemson. They're going to play Miami in basketball. Think about that. That's a cross-country flight. Stanford down to Miami. That's a cross-country flight. What are we doing here? Look, you separate the football. You want to keep USC and UCLA in the Big Ten for football because that makes the most money for the Big Ten revenue and it makes the most money for Fox and their partners. Okay, I understand that. But it makes no sense to keep us all bound together by football. We're not playing amateur. This isn't amateurism. This is not amateurism. This is semi-pro football. That's what it is. It's not even minor league football. It's semi-pro football. I mean, honestly, what would you rather watch? Would you rather watch the XFL or USFL in the spring or the SEC? It's a question that you don't even have to answer because the SEC has millions of eyes on it each and every week. Alabama, LSU, there's a reason that LSU stayed as one of Alabama's permanent opponents because you do not give up the Alabama LSU game from a television standpoint. You don't do it. It's raked in the most eyes year in and year out. Okay, of course, Auburn's jumped in there. The Auburn-Alabama games jumped in there. But Alabama LSU has been one of the most viewed games for the last decade. This is not amateur athletics. Now, you look at the volleyball team, the UA volleyball team. Yes, they're still competing they're really operating amateur as an amateur athletics. You look at the rowing team, yeah, they work hard. They're operating as amateurs. You're not really operating as amateurs for football. And so you have just massive, everybody's competing with their own interests. Oh, look, the coaches want a regulation on NIL and transfer portal because it helps them control the team and helps them plan for winning and helps them roster manage. But they need to go to their administration and say, hey, why don't we just stay in the league that we're in? Or why don't we just work to separate the football from these other schools or from these other sports? I think that you really are about to see a huge break in college football, a huge break in college athletics because of the revenue driven by football. Now, look, you can keep the revenue driven by football and still have it permeate through your athletic program. I think you'd save a lot of money. Look, the problem is you send the UCLA volleyball team across country to play Rutgers. That's going to cost you a lot of money, and you're not getting a lot of money in return. Keep the UCLA volleyball team out west. Keep the Pac-12 alive. Keep the non-revenue sports in your regional conferences. I think you'll see that going in the next 5 to 6 years. You're going to see these guys realize that, hey, this money, this math doesn't make sense. We should just break football away, use it as what it really is, the money maker in all of these athletic programs, and revert to regional conferences in these non-revenue sports. I love the SEC. That's what we really follow here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. And really, the SEC is healthy. The SEC, you're seeing a lot of people talk about, why don't the SEC get Clemson, get Miami? Why doesn't the SEC go out and get Oklahoma State or try to poach and build? We don't need it. We do not need anyone. If you needed, look, who's the biggest crown jewel out there that the SEC could add? Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the biggest crown jewel. You're not going to get them out of their independency. There's no reason to get Miami. There's no reason to get Florida State. There's no reason to get these markets that you already have eyes on. Alabama, we already have Florida. University of Florida carries the entire state, and every time you play Florida, you got eyes from the state of Florida. You don't need Oklahoma State. You've already got Oklahoma. You've got the markets cornered. There's nothing the SEC is really going to need to do. I think if the SEC is going to add anyone in the future, it's going to have to be the perfect fit, and the incoming school is going to have to offer a pretty large offer, pretty nice offer to the member organizations in the SEC. The SEC, I don't think is going to change in the near future, but I see college football and college athletics over the next 5 years breaking away from each other, and not necessarily calling it semi-pro football, but operating on its own scale. This is the college football, here's the top 60 teams, here's the top 80 teams, something of the sort. Because let's be honest. Yes, Alabama was 123rd in penalties last year, but that's the only thing that Alabama has in common with the 123rd team last year. The Georgia Southern, I love you, Georgia Southern. Golden Eagles, got a lot of friends that went there, but they're not really competing for the same national championship that Alabama is in football. They're not. They're just not. Let's all be honest with each other. Troy, nice little program here in the state of Alabama. Go Trojans. You're not really competing for the same national championship that LSU and Auburn and Alabama are. Let's be honest. You're not. Even the college football playoff, it might work out a little bit of that. It might open up the door a little bit for a little more parity. You might go from a top 6, a top 8 to a top 20 teams competing for a national title. But really, right now, you go into the 2023 year, everybody's thinking about preseason polls. Alabama coming in at number 3 yesterday on the coaches poll. We didn't even talk about that because it's the coaches poll, and those guys don't even care about what they vote for. But we know Alabama, you're not competing at the same level. You're not operating and going for the same national championships. Yes, you're in the same division, but let's be honest. Troy, South Alabama, Georgia Southern, these schools are not competing with Alabama. Even with respect to UAB, you're not competing with Alabama. And so you need to have a further breakaway from the top end of college football, from the college sports that are non-revenue based. And I think you'll see that in the next 5 to 7 years. That's going to be the next major marker, the next major shift in college athletics, a big breakaway from college football and the NCAA, and then a retaining of the non-revenue sports and a reverting back to regional conferences for the regional sports. Your UCLA volleyballs enjoy playing in the East Coast for a couple of years, but I think you're going to go back to playing on the West Coast in the future. And yeah, it sucks for the parents who are trying to follow their kids. It's very difficult. Obviously, the travel is no fun. Eli Drinkwitz talking about travel and rest being main problems for mental health for college athletes. And so, look, it's something that's going to have to be addressed. I understand the football money that's at play cannot be ignored. The media money cannot be ignored, and I'm not encouraging anyone to ignore it. But you've got to find a way. You've got to work a better way that says, you know what, Notre Dame, you guys might have it right. Your big deal with NBC football. Huge deal with NBC football. That's why they're never going to go out. They're never going to join a conference football-wise because NBC just says dump more money into the Catholic program, nationally relevant program. Great. I got no problem with it. They've been doing it for years. But they realize, okay, the football deal is one thing. Our non-revenue sports, even they throw in basketball, men's and women's basketball, who's right there on the revenue cusp of being, some of them, sometimes some years they're bringing in money, some years they're losing money. They're right on the cusp. the other non-revenue sports are members of the ACC. And I think you're going to see that kind of going forward. You're going to see a big breakaway, and we'll see kind of the SEC. You can see kind of the top end of college football breakaway, and then everyone will revert back to their regional conferences for the non-revenue sports. So that's going to do it for my program today. I really appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We have been rocking and rolling on the Joe Gaither Show right at an hour. We've talked about Amari Jefferson. We've talked about Peyton Woodyard. We talked about Tyler Booker for a little bit. Tyler Booker with his big-time comments yesterday in the media, firing up Alabama fans. We talked about Nick Saban and his comments on realignment, wanting to focus on the student-athlete. And I think that needs to be the focus, needs to absolutely be the focus. He and Eli Drinkwitz in agreement. And I outlined how I think that will come to fruition over the next 5 to 10 years when as college sports, as the college landscape continues to change. As we get out of here, I want to encourage you to listen to our other Bama Central Broadcasting Network podcast. We've got All Things Bama with Katie Wyndham and Austin Hannon. Those guys chopped it up about Alabama running backs earlier in the week. So make sure you check out their episode. Check out Blue Collar Unplugged. Jacob Pickle, Matthew Gibson, and Blake Byler. Those guys are going to put out an episode later in the week. They are soliciting mailbag questions right now. If you guys have any Alabama basketball questions or any student section questions related for Jacob Pickle, you can jump into their mailbag. Blue Collar Unplugged is their social medias, and you can follow them, drop your questions in right there. All three of us together make up the Bama Central Broadcasting Network, and I've had a lot of fun hanging out with you guys today. You guys are the listener. I love you so much. You're the viewer. You guys are the reason why we do each and every day. I am Joe Gaither. You guys can follow me at Joe Gaither6 on the Twitter machine, on the Instagram machine. Just search Joe Gaither on Facebook. I'll add you as a friend. You can find me on Snapchat as well, Joe Gaither6, if you want to see my dog and cat. That's all that's going on right there. You can follow the program. Send me your comments, questions, queries, and complaints. Tell a friend about the show if you think they might like it. SEC fan, Alabama fan, anybody in your life that wants to have a little bit of time covering all things Alabama athletics related can listen to the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com. Or if you hate Alabama athletics, we love any counterpoints as well. No problem. If you're an Auburn fan, I disagree with you, but I invite you to jump in the program, and I invite you to needle me as much as you like. It's no problem at all. So follow the program on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm hopeful. Ooh, a little bit of sunlight. I'm hopeful that the storms will break here in Tuscaloosa, and we will be able to see a little bit of Alabama soccer tonight over at the soccer complex. Alabama soccer supposed to be scheduled for an exhibition against the Tennessee Vols at 7 p.m. The weather's been absolutely nasty this morning in Northport and Tuscaloosa. Hopefully it will break and the fields will drain, and we'll get a little soccer action tonight, and we can talk about it tomorrow on the program. So everybody, thanks so much for listening. You guys are the best. Follow my friends at Chris Walsh at Writing Walsh on the Twitter machine for Chris Walsh. Follow Bama Central at Bama Central on the Twitter machines. We are the Sports Illustrated home for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and this was the Tuesday edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central.